Hi Leute, willkommen. Wir gucken uns heute Grimshire, The Cozy Game That Refuses to Be Kind an. Von Kagnav, keine Ahnung wer das ist. Ich glaube, es ist wieder ein englisches Video. Und ich persönlich mag Cozy Games eigentlich ganz gerne. Also, Fields of Mistral habe ich viel gespielt, Stardew Valley habe ich viel gespielt, Sunhaven habe ich viel gespielt. Ich stehe eigentlich auf solche Games. Ähm, Pixel Land wollte ich auch spielen, aber das hat auf meinem PC nicht funktioniert. Und ja, wir gucken mal. Denn meistens sind die ja übel süß, die ganzen Spiele und so, und alles mega happy und so. Aber wenn das mal in so eine düstere Richtung geht, oder vielleicht sogar in so eine Horrorrichtung, wäre ich sehr interessiert. Deswegen, wir schauen mal rein.
The cozy genre has an identity crisis.
Hm,
Due to the
weiß ja
massive
nicht.
success of Stardew Valley, we have been on a generational run of great cozy games being announced and released one after another.
Ah,
Games like Coral Island, Sunhaven, and Fields of Mystery are all
Sunhaven
very
war
good
toll.
additions to the
Wieder
genre
Mistrat
and are
auch.
able to capture that classic Harvest Moon magic gamers have been chasing for literal years. But as more and more of these Stardew Valley likes get released, the more you'll start to notice a certain boredom or burnout that's slowly being echoed across the general
Ja, das braucht schon irgendetwas, das ein bisschen ausmacht, ne? Finde ich auch.
community. I call it the Stardew fatigue. This is a growing sentiment among players that a lot of games that launched in the past couple of years within this genre follows the core experience of Stardew Valley way too closely. And as
Bro hat mega die angenehme Stimme.
good as that core experience is, if you play it for hundreds, thousands of hours across different games, you're essentially just doing different versions of the same thing in different colored paints, inevitably blurring the experience. Suddenly, when a new game gets announced,
Mochte eigentlich sehr, wie Sunhaven das gemacht hat, weil ja, das ist am Anfang so ein bisschen wie Stardew Valley, aber das hat eine Story. Es gibt viel mehr Kämpfe als in Stardew Valley, also nicht nur so eine Mine oder so, sondern auch Wälder voll mit Monstern und Kram. Es gibt Magie, die dir auch beim Farmen helfen kann, was ganz cool ist. Und es gibt verschiedene Biome und verschiedene Farmen, die du haben kannst. Also am Ende hast du halt alle. Es ist ganz schön cool.
or a game you've been looking forward to finally releases, you're not excited anymore. Instead, you feel tired.
Ja, ich bin
Tired
auch
of
noch
these
excited.
games. Tired.
Aber wenn man nur diese Games zockt, dann normal, dass man keinen Bock mehr hat. Das habe ich manchmal auch mit RPGs so. Ich liebe zum Beispiel Divinity 2, ich spiele das sehr, sehr gerne. Aber wenn ich das einen ganzen Tag gegamed habe, denke ich mir auch so, Bruder, geht jetzt nicht. Bruder, nee, nee, kein Bock mehr. Obwohl das Spiel echt peak ist, aber irgendwann braucht man halt was anderes.
Of this genre. This is Stardew fatigue. It's mostly the reason why on this channel I personally gravitate towards a certain subgenre of cozy games called the dark cozy or cozy horror. Not because they're better games, it's
Cozy
subjective
Horror klingt
personal
crazy.
opinion.
Ich habe auch Graveyard Keeper gespielt. Das ist auch so ein bisschen cozy Game, aber anstatt einer Farm, wie der Name schon sagt, hat man einen Friedhof und muss den schön machen und muss die Leichen bestatten. Aber man kann auch sie zu Zombies erwecken und für sich arbeiten lassen oder ihr Fleisch verkaufen und so. Er ist crazy.
But in a sea of warm meadows and vast green fields, this tiny patch of withered forest and dying wildlife is to
Holy
me a
shit.
breath of fresh air. And in my opinion, none encapsulates this idea of being the antithesis to Stardew Valley than a game called Grimshire. Grimshire at first sounds like your typical cozy farming game. You, in a sense, arrive in a remote village with tight-knit residents, you
Mit
inherit a
ganz vielen
farm, and
Furries.
build relationships with the people around you, which all sounds very typical.
Ja.
However, the
Aber sieht sehr
circumstances
süß
of
aus.
how you got there is what changes everything. The game opens up at the dead of a rainy night, where Finn, the traveling merchant, arrives to the small village of Grimshire towing two injured persons. A goat woman with deep critical wounds, and you, unconscious but still alive. Finn explains the situation to the villagers and the mayor. He says that chaos has engulfed the capital. He awoke to howling and screaming, a huge fire broke out, and amongst the smoke and the debris, he
Das ist doch direkt ein interessanter Einstieg.
could only save two people before the flames consumed the docks and he was forced to set sail. Now, despite the confusion, the villagers took us in, while Finn left that same night to find out more about the situation. In the morning, we finally awoke in the local healer's home. She asked us what we remember from the capital, but sadly, we've lost our memory.
Natürlich.
Right next to us lies the
Selbstverständlich.
injured goat woman in critical condition, and Hazel asks again, what injured the poor woman? She's covered in bite marks and scratches. Was she attacked by a predator? But again, we shake our head.
Wir sehen ehrlich gesagt aus wie ein Predator, wie so ein kleiner Dingo.
A funeral was held when the goat woman passed, and at this point, the game is bombarding you with questions. Who are we? What happened to the capital? Why was the woman covered in such
Das ist
injuries?
mega interessant.
That will be answered within a few days. In the meantime, since trade is temporarily halted, Percy and Theo the mayor gave us access to an old abandoned farm, partly to give us time to recover, and partly so that someone can grow food and stock the root cellar while Finn tries to find out what happened. So, like in any other cozy farming game, we do our thing. We plow the land and grow crops, we fish, and we start to settle in on this new quiet life. And if you are the one playing, this is the closest it's gonna be to Stardew Valley. Because when Finn returns, he brings with him devastating news. In the capital, the city is in ruins. The air is stenched with
Das ist richtig cool. Ich habe ehrlich gesagt jetzt schon Bock, das Spiel zu spielen. Leute, wir sehen uns in 500 Stunden dann wieder, ja?
death, and the only ones moving about are acting feral, not like themselves, aggressive and mad. They would have attacked Finn if it weren't for their fear of the ocean. As Finn tells more of the story, the more we realize that Grimshire is not your typical cozy game. Instead, this is a farming sim in the midst of a growing zombie apocalypse.
Oh, das ist arschcool.
Of Grimshire, villages are ravaged, and those who survived are cautious and protective of their own. They wouldn't let anyone get close, and so trade has permanently stopped running. For an isolated village like Grimshire, this is essentially a death sentence. With that, the tension grows. People, carnivores and herbivores alike, start pointing at each other. Without trade and without food, none would survive.
Was ist eigentlich mit Farm Animals? Gibt's die überhaupt, wenn alle anderen ja auch Animals sind?
And
Oder haben wir so eine goofy Pluto-Situation?
that's when Percy says something. Enough. We're a community. We'll get through this together. Heck, we have a farmer now. Everybody looks at you, and suddenly the village has a silver lining. A small ray of hope that things will be okay despite the desperate situation. For them, having a farmer means safety. For
Ehrlich gesagt, wenn wirklich alles isoliert ist, sollte jeder farmen. Jeder sollte Essen anbauen tatsächlich.
you, being a farmer is a shackle of responsibility. But before we move forward, first let me introduce you to today's sponsor, Instant Gaming, who's also
Okay, Instant Gaming, dankeschön, dass ihr den Bruder hier unterstützt, ne? Kuss geht raus. Bester. Wir gucken mal weiter.
in this context lies the breath of fresh air. When you look at it from the outside, mechanically speaking, there's not a lot of difference between what you're doing in Stardew Valley versus what you're doing in Grimshire. You're planting crops, watering them with the same water can, harvesting the produce. But what separates the feeling of playing Grimshire from Stardew is the reason why you're doing it. In most cozy farming games, you're farming in order to make money, to increase your daily profit, to get that house upgrade or decoration you've always wanted. You're
Yeah.
doing the work to expand your empire. When you're playing these games, you're thinking about growth and expansion. It's an upward trend of positivity
stimmt.
where the hardest part is setting it all up. And from then on, it's growth towards a better, prettier future. You're not thinking about growing hungry or bills to pay at the end of the week, you're just chilling. Maybe you'll build a barn to take care of 2 chickens. Maybe you'll purchase a horse to get around faster. Maybe you'll help the townsfolk through quests, even finding romance.
Ich find's krass, dass wenn man scheiß Arbeit als Farmer macht, die Leute um einen herum verhungern. Das wäre richtig krass. So in Grimshire.
And building a family. In Grimshire, however, despite again watering the same crops, taking care of the same animals, you're not thinking of
sind ja
expansion.
süß.
You're thinking of survival. When the friends you've been building relationships with rely on your produce to survive day by day, and any mistake, wrong estimation, or unfinished project means real consequences to the people around you, it changes your mindset. Because Grimshire doesn't shy away from taking those you love.
Oh.
In fact, what's great about this title
Leute sterben also wirklich innerhalb des Spiels, wenn du reinscheißt. Oh, das ist krass.
Is that it actively tries to do it. But before I show you how the game
Das
does
ist
that,
heftig.
let me introduce you to one of Grimshire's core mechanics, the root cellar. This is a small cave where the villagers stock their food, mostly for the winter. But when crisis struck and sources of food and supplies became uncertain, this root cellar turned into a lifeline. There's two types of food we need to secure every single day. Food for the herbivores, which mostly come from crops you grow and vegetables you forage, and of
Ergibt
course,
Sinn.
food for the carnivores, which can be acquired by fishing or raising critters which provide daily produce.
Oh.
Now, in the beginning of the game, we start off with a pretty good surplus. The villagers only consume 1 day's worth of food stock every day, so all we really need to do is to make sure it has enough to go around for the whole village. However, this is Grimshire. So at the start of the second week, right after Finn announces that trade is permanently halted, soldiers from the Empire will also begin to dock at the end of every week, demanding what they call Defenders' Rations.
Oh, das ist ja richtig cool. Das macht das Spiel ja noch viel
In the
schwerer.
middle of a national crisis, people look to take advantage. And so this is where the many troubles of this village officially begin.
Oh,
They start
damn.
off demanding a week's worth of food, both for herbivores and carnivores.
Oh Gott. Da musst du noch die Soldaten durchfüttern so. Wie soll das ein Farmer machen? Der muss eigentlich die anderen einstellen, dass die auch arbeiten, dass die auch Essen besorgen. Das geht doch
If
nicht.
we can't
Was machen die anderen scheiße Villager die ganze Zeit?
provide it, they'll take their donation in bodies in the form of a military draft. So as the one responsible for food, we get to work. We grow our crops, tame our first alfeebs for both milk and wool,
Ja,
and we
voll die
try to
Süßen.
automate the whole thing. Pumps and pipes for irrigation, fish traps for fishing. Also, we'll have some extra time to both forage in the wild and mine upgrade materials for tools and buildings. At the end of the week, we make it, barely. The village is left with only half a day's worth of food. Now, here's something Grimshire does extremely well. Just when you think it can't get any worse, it does.
Oh
The
nein.
tide arrives. The shores become sickly, dead fish wash up on the beach, and suddenly the fish traps you toiled to set up and the
Oh,
ocean
shit.
which has been providing you with a sustainable supply of carnivore food isn't reliable anymore. And that's
Oh,
only
das
the
ist krass. Okay.
beginning. You solve one problem, another pops up. You think you're getting the hang of the game, they double the ration. Pirates raid your shores. A predator arrives in the nearby forest, and crows eat your plants, all while the wind grows colder and colder, warning you of the looming winter threat. So
Oh.
while the main problem that caused everything are the ferals, they're
Winter muss so krass sein in diesem Spiel.
not the only enemy. Everybody is desperate, everyone's going hungry, and we're at the bottom of the food chain. And this is how context changes everything. You're doing the same thing. You're farming, you're raising animals, you're mining, you're exploring, but your mindset is in a very different place. Progress in this game isn't about getting the bigger house, it's surviving another week while keeping the village intact. And as you get better with the game, and you learn more ways to preserve food or make stocks last longer, the game tightens its grips and introduces more challenges, which makes playing it a completely different experience.
Das ist sehr
The
cool.
content is in the lens that you play it through. That's what separates it from the rest of the genre. And again, in the event of failure, whether it's villagers going hungry or goals not being met, it ends in tragedy. And that's the weight that you don't really get elsewhere, especially in games where you live
Oh Gott, stell dir vor, du hast nur deinen Lieblings-Villager, ihr seid so richtig ABFs und weil du reingeschissen hast, stirbt er jetzt. Boah, Leute, das ist Herzschmerz, sein
only
Vater.
for yourself. Grimshire thrusts you into a position of responsibility that almost forces you to care about these people over the course of a year. So when things go wrong, it hits harder, both in the story and in gameplay. A big example are village projects. Every time a new crisis starts, the village tries to fight back. Your friends will propose solutions, and everybody votes on which solution they think is best. When a predator starts stalking our alfeebs at night, Tano proposes the idea of potentially taming it. He theorizes that, if tamed, it'll be able to help with hunting, providing a steady supply of meat for the village. So, we agree, and we get to work. But on top of a pirate raid and the ration being increased to now 20 days worth of food, I unfortunately didn't have the time to contribute enough materials for the project, and Tano paid the price.
Oh,
Now,
shit.
not only was this a loss of a beloved character, but Tano has a function of being able to tame wild critters, which I was using for my ranch. With him gone, I also lost out on a crucial mechanic, not to mention
Alter,
the
mein Little Brother. Oh mein Gott, Leute, das Spiel ist diabolisch.
daily contribution he provides for both food and materials, making the rest of the playthrough just a little bit more difficult. And if you keep failing and people start to disappear, the village decays. You lose crucial functions, you lose romanceable characters, and you lose stories. And you know what hurts even more? All of these could have been prevented. If only I planned better. If only I prioritized the project.
Boah,
If
ist
I
das krass.
sacrifice and butcher the animals which I've been raising since the beginning, maybe we would have had enough supplies and I wouldn't have wasted so much time gathering and fishing, and Tano would still be alive. The mechanics might be the same, but the context changes everything.
Das ist
You're
saugeil.
doing the same actions, but what you're experiencing is completely different. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, how is this still considered a dark cozy game? Because from what I just told you, it's mostly just dark. Grimshire is the opposite
Nun.
of what most people are looking for when they want to play a cozy game. There's heavy time stress, there's real consequences, and you can't always win every battle.
Aber ehrlich gesagt, Konsequenzen ist etwas, was mir immer so ein bisschen gefehlt hat in diesen Cozy-Spielen. Dass es aber wirklich Konsequenzen gibt, wenn man reinscheißt.
But look back to games
Und nicht nur, oh, du hast jetzt einen Teil deines Geldes verloren, weil du in der Mine gestorben bist. Was krasses
like
halt.
Dark Souls. The game is hard and unforgiving. There's danger in every corner, and
Ist
you
Dark Souls
never
der
know
Farming-Spieler.
when your progress will be reset by dying. These long stretches of intense stress, followed by the sight of a bonfire or grace just over in the distance, is exactly what Grimshire feels like to me. The darkness enhances the small ray of light. It makes the cozy and the occasional kindness in the story shine brighter than any narrative in a typical cozy game. It's like being in a cold room underneath warm blankets, like gaming on a rainy night as thunder rumbles while you're in the safety of your home.
Jo.
That blanket wouldn't be as cozy if the entire room is warm. It'll just be hot. Same thing for cozy games. And I think many people feel the same way. When the genre is all bright meadows and frolicking in green pastures, it gets stuffy. It gets redundant. But when you sprinkle in games like Grimshire with its dark take on farming, it provides that little bit of edge.
Das ist super faszinierend. Das dachte ich halt auch. Das gibt halt noch mal ein bisschen Edge dazu. Ja.
breath of fresh air the genre is in dire need of. And that's exactly what we need to combat this stagnation, this Stardew fatigue that a lot of people complain about. Because it's not that we're tired of cozy games, it's just that we're tired of the same experience being replicated across the genre. And what's great is that even these small twists and contextual changes to the proven system is already more than enough to breathe new life into the space. And that's exactly what we're seeing from upcoming games that a lot of people are getting very excited about. Neverway with its psychological horror and heavy focus on life sim, Grave Seasons with its murder mystery backdrop, or even Welcome to Elderfield with its Eldritch God twist. All of them are cozy farming games, but each
Ich
provides
hatte das gar nicht auf den Schirm, dass es so diese Dark Cozy Games so viele davon gibt.
a completely
Ich glaube, da hatte
new
ich richtig Bock drauf.
experience. These prove that Grimshire isn't a one-off success. It's a sign that the genre is in need of growth. As much as I love the typical cozy farming game, sometimes an evolution is needed. Not exclusively in the dark direction, these are merely examples, but an evolution of themes, narratives, or mechanics can take a game from being just another Stardew Valley-like to something that truly redefines what it means to be a cozy game. So what do you think? Were you ready to give up on the genre, or does this give you some hope that cozy games are ready to grow up?
Das gibt mir ehrlich gesagt viel
Thanks for
Hope,
watching. I'm still
dass da draußen was geben wird, was geil ist. Also, das war ein richtig, richtig, richtig gutes Video. Also Leute, schaut gerne in die Kommentare, ne? Da ist natürlich da verlinkt. Was denkt ihr denn darüber? Jucken euch Cozy Games? So, die sind ja auch immer sehr zeitaufwendig. Und wenn ja, dann hättet ihr lieber so ein Stardew Valley Cozy Game, wo alles süß und nice ist und ihr eigentlich chillen könnt, oder so ein stressiges wie das, was wir gerade gesehen haben. Ich glaube, ich tendiere ehrlich gesagt zu dem stressigen mehr. weil ich ein großer Freund von solchen dramatischen Konsequenzen bin. Oder Drama allgemein. Ich mag Drama, Leute. Und dann, keine Ahnung, hat man reingeschissen und mein Lieblingsfuchs ist tot und oh mein Gott, Leute. Das klingt richtig cool. Ich will das Spiel jetzt spielen. Okay, haut rein, Leute. Wir sehen uns in 500 Stunden wieder. Ciao.